Shri Gurun Vaishnavangscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitang Tang Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitangscha Om Jnanatimrandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chaksur Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangolang Hayate Girim Yat Kripatamahang Vande Shri Gurundinatarinam Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Cheva Naruttamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet Nindantam Pulakot Korena Bikasam Nipa Prasunatchavim Prodikritva Bujadvayam Hari Hari Ituchai Dantam Muhu Nuttantam Dutam Asrinirjara Chaye Sinchantam Urvitalam Gayantam Nija Parasadai Parivratam Shrigaura Chandram Nama Ananda Lila Maya Vigrahaya Hemabhadivyachtavi Sundaraya Tasmai Mahaprema Rasa Pradaya Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste. Hare Krishna. So, today is the supremely auspicious day, the Vasanta Pancami, taken as the first day of spring, the Saraswati Puja, worshiping Goddess Saraswati, like goddess of the arts, of all speech. Guruma says oral resources, A-U-R-A-L, oral speaking, singing, poetry, by extension, writing, and the appearance day of Vishnu Priya Devi, Raghunath Das Goswami Prabhu, Raghunandan Thakur, Pundarik Vidyanidhi Prabhu, Premanidhi, disappearance of Srila Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur, and Sripad Parvat Maharaj and Sripad Bharati Maharaj, sannyas disciples of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So, all of these things give us a chance for remembrance. Actually, if we just follow the Vaishnav calendar, it will give us the inspiration what to think at any particular time, or it will direct us toward which sections of the books that we should read. Just looking there and saying, oh, let's read that, let's read this part, that part, and we'll see, sequentially, we're approaching the appearance day of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So many auspicious days will come. But in the case of Saraswati, there's the goddess representation in this world, and then what is known as Dibya Saraswati. Guru Maharaj would say, the Saraswati of Goloka. Right? When we read in the Brahma Samhita that when Brahma appears from the Garbhodakshai Vishnu, as we know, first Mahavishnu, innumerable universes coming from the pores of Mahavishnu in the causal ocean, then entering again into each universe, Garbhodakshai Vishnu in the bottom of the universe, so to speak, in the waters of the Garbhodak ocean, and from his lotus navel comes a lotus flower that opens and you find Brahma. And that Brahma gets the inspiration to perform austerities for perhaps 1,000 celestial years. And ultimately, as described in Brahma Samhita, the goddess Saraswati initiates him in the Kama Gayatri mantra. Govindaya Gopi Jana Bala, etc. Which Guru Maharaj said, really it's Krishnaya's Madan Mohan, Govindaya Govinda, Gopi Jana Balavaya, Gopinath. And in that sequence also, Brahma hears the sound of Krishna's flute, it enters his 8 ear holes, and then comes out as the Brahma Gayatri. So, Vagdevi, the goddess of speech, there's some specific connection also with our line, because I said, Devim Saraswatim Vyasam. Sutta Goswami invokes the blessings of Saraswati in his telling of the Bhagavatam. After Sukadev to Parikshit, there's Sutta Goswami to the assembled sages. And Veda Vyas, his ashram in the Himalaya, is on the banks of the Saraswati River. So Guru Maharaj will invoke subjective evolution of consciousness to check us from thinking of these things in an objective way. So yes, there's the objective side on the banks of the Saraswati River, but Srila Guru Maharaj will tell us, what really is that? It's a current, right, of divine flow. It has its representation as a river, just like the Ganga. We're told, Krishna Prem in liquid form. We'll hear how venerable that was to Pundarik Vidyanidhi. But here, so that flow, so it's very beautiful. It's like literal and metaphorical and poetic at the same time. That there's Vyasa, and from there that flow is coming, right? Like the descent of the Guru Parampara, of Shabda Brahma, Amnaya, revealed truth. So, and we, those who've been in India on this day, Bhakti Lalita knows the school children, it's like a holiday. You go to school, but it's a celebration. And they're celebrating Saraswati Puja, and all the girls, they wear yellow. Preferably new clothes, but whether it's a sari or some other type of dress, everyone wearing yellow and enthusiastically worshiping Saraswati and praying for some inspiration. I could say, like Brahma. And here we notice now in the springtime, can't help but notice, you see all these trees with yellow flowers. How perfect is that? And they just come for a short time, and then it's almost like raining yellow flowers within the next few days. So, and our Param Gurudev, Guru Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, named Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati. And as Guru Maharaj says in one of his pranams, Nikhila Bhuvanamaya, it ends with Vilasatu Hridi Nityam Bhakti Siddhanta Vani. So he took Saraswati, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, and transposed that to Vani, the speech, the sound, the divine instructions of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. That is the substance of the Krishna consciousness movement. Right? What he's extracted from Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and he's infused that into the hearts of his disciples, and with the tacit understanding, they're their expression of gratitude for his gift is to extend it to others. So Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, on the order of Srila Saraswati Thakur, right, that divine sound, Guru said, may it forever play upon our hearts. It was playing upon his heart. And Vrindavan, he came out, took Krishna consciousness all over the world. Srila Guru Maharaj would say he was at the end of his life, and we know really only accessible to a handful of senior disciples of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who were aware of Srila Guru Maharaj and his capacity, particularly his capacity in representing Srila Saraswati Thakur. So Srila Madhava Maharaj, Srila Puri Maharaj, Ban Maharaj, Jajavar Maharaj, and Srila Swami Maharaj Prabhupada, they know who Srila Sridhar Maharaj is and what he has and his level of representation of Srila Saraswati Thakur. So much so that they consider what he says, what his opinion is, you can take it as coming from Prabhupada Saraswati Thakur. And Guru Maharaj, I was sharing this with Paramananda Prabhu earlier today, always giving something unique and original. He said, talking about the concept of Saraswati, the flow, that divine current. He said, so we are word traders, meaning like trade, like business. Our business is words. Right? Within words are concepts, conceptualization. Right? Saraswati is giving the mantram. Within the mantram, it's living substance. It's not a passive thing. There's living substance there for for the receptive heart. That's a wonderful thing. It's not the inversion that people, they just think you vibrate some mantra over and over again and then something comes out. But rather, we're told the heart, when it connects to the plane of heart, then there is revelation. And does that mean in some sentimental way? No. The proof of heart connection is seva. Sevan mukhe hijivado shayameva sportida. And seva means sacrifice, self-sacrifice, self-giving. Right? Not nija sukh, one's own happiness, but what is the happiness of Krishna and his entourage, Satjan Toshini, the Satjan, Radha and Krishna, those whom they consider their own, what is pleasing to them. Right? So, Guru Maharaj said like that, word traders, right? That is the business of Krishna consciousness. Through sound, we conceive. Right? It's like we don't know there's a dog there, we hear him bark, we know there's a dog there. Through the sound, we conceive. A crude example, no doubt. But the voice, Bhakti Siddhanta Vani of Srila Saraswati Thakur, and Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur, they have revealed to us the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the proper conception of Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita. And in the pastimes of Mahaprabhu, as we're approaching his appearance, and if you listened on different days, you would hear us saying almost the same thing, that some particular person was responsible for the descent of Mahaprabhu. Right? Sometimes we'll say, oh, as I told, it's a celebration of the heart of Srimati Radharani. She converted Krishna into a devotee, and then he descends in this world to experience her position. So then we can attribute to her. Another place we say, Tulosi Dala Matrena Jalasya Chulakena Va, that Dvaita Acharya with a palm full of Ganga water and some tulsi leaves, supplicated the Lord to descend in this plane. When we heard about the sannyas of Mahaprabhu, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu tells Mother Sachi, this body is yours, it belongs to you. You decide. And she's so merciful that, as heartbreaking as it is for her to not have his constant company, and we can't properly estimate that from our present position, but the depth, the magnitude of love that Mother Sachi has for her son, which she says, then if you will stay in Puri, devotees are always coming and going, Navadvip, Puri, Navadvip, then I'll get some news of you. But equally, if not more, heartbreaking is the case of Vishnu Priya. And who is the wife of Nimai Pandit, and a teenage girl at that. And Srila Guru Maharaj, I think, put it best when he quoted one famous sloka from the Srimad Bhagavatam. There are two slokas in the 11th canto that end with the line, Bande Mahapurushate Charanaravindam. And they're taken in one sense to reference the pastimes of Ramachandra, how he gave up the imperial throne to be crowned as king, was cursed, along with Sita and Lakshman, went to the forest, like that. And that Ravana comes, or Marichi comes in the form of a deer, Maya, and an illusion to entrap Sita, along those lines. But another interpretation is given referencing the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that Mahapurush. Tyaktva sudushtaja surepshita raja lakshmin dharmista arja vachasa yadagararanyam mayam mrigam doita ipsitam anbadavad bande mahapurushate charanaravindam. Here, Gurman says, what is the imperial throne? The heart of Vishnu Priya. That's the imperial throne. And he said, so as Ramachandra, he had to give up that throne to not be enshrined as king. The imperial throne of the Krishna Prem and the heart of Vishnu Priya is inestimable, unimaginable to us, how great that is. But that she will make that sacrifice so that what? Mayam rigam duita ipsitam anbadavad. So that Nimai Pandit, who will later become Sri Krishna Chaitanya, the souls who are running after Maya, he's going to run after them and rescue them. Right? They're all lost running after Maya. We say, for her own nija sukh, own happiness, she doesn't have to comply. But what will be a lifetime of heartbreak for her, she tacitly agrees to. And we hear in her separation, she's taking Krishna Nam, And as she's chanting, she'll put 1 grain of rice, like the way we count on beads or counter beads. She's putting a grain of rice. And then perhaps there's a palm full of rice at the end, and that she's subsisting on. And after perhaps 5 years, when a sannyasi by social custom can return to their village, Mahaprabhu returns and the throng is there. We know, right? Hundreds of thousands. Sado pasya srimandrita manujakai pranaitam bahadbi girvane girisha panrishti prabhritibi sa bhaktebhya sudham nijabhajaram mudram upadisham sadchetanna kime punarapidashorya shatipadam. Within those throngs of the hundreds of thousands, perhaps millions of people, Brahma, Shiva, the gods are coming to have a glimpse of the divine form of Gauranga Mahaprabhu. Svarna koti darpanava deho varna gauravam. And in the periphery are Sachi Mata and Vishnu Priya. And we're told Vishnu Priya looks emaciated and unkempt and bearing the sorrow of her separation. Previously, when Nimai Pandit, his first wife, Lakshmi Priya, when Nimai Pandit went to East Bengal, and told she was bit by the serpent of separation, Sarp Viraha, couldn't tolerate that much separation from him. And now Vishnu Priya living this life of separation. In a sense, as he's taken sannyas, she's taken the parallel to that. And knowing the pain in her heart, and he's committed to rescuing the fallen souls, Patita Pavana Gaura Hari, and sacrificing their own personal happiness to this end, that he steps out of his padukas, the wooden shoes, and when they move on, then Vishnu Priya Devi comes and takes those wooden sandals and worships them for the rest of her life. And at one point, she commissions a deity of Mahaprabhu, and we're told they bring the deity before her and she dismisses it. Work some more, bring it, she dismisses it. Then they bring it again and she draws her veil. Like that, Guru Maharaj told me once, he said, if you want to know what a deity of Mahaprabhu should look like, go to Vishnu Priya Bari, the house of Vishnu Priya, Mahaprabhu Bari, known various names. Go see that deity. And so, in Navadvip, and we know that the Ganga is flowing in Navadvip Dham. And when Krishna is descending in this world as Mahaprabhu, in certain places where the Ganga does not flow, it's called Radhadesh. There's a place in the scriptures where it's saying, a place is inauspicious if the Ganga doesn't flow there, if the Pandavas didn't visit there. It gives different reasons. But Mahaprabhu is so merciful, he's sending supremely exalted devotees to appear in those places. But what that means is when he's in Navadvip, he's feeling separation from them. Just as we had made 3 books for Srila Guru Maharaj, Search for Sri Krishna, reality the beautiful. Sri Guru and His grace, golden volcano of divine love. When it came to the fourth, Guru Maharaj said, we showed in the beginning, search for Sri Krishna, reality the beautiful, how the devotees are searching, and ultimately Krishna as Mahaprabhu, he's also searching. Kahan Krishna Prananath Murali Vadan, Kahan Karun Kahan Pan Brajendra Nandan, particularly after taking sannyas. He said, but now here we will show that the Lord is also searching for His lost servants. And he would say, and it is a loving search. Therefore, a loving search for the lost servant. So there's lost servant in that sense, and there are others from whom He is separated. And He's bearing the pain of separation in His heart, being unable to be with them. And Pundarik Vidyanidhi is one such devotee. So sometimes, mysteriously, the devotees will hear Mahaprabhu crying out, wailing, saying, Bap, Pundarik, Father, Pundarik, where are you? My father, Pundarik, like that. And the devotees, simple-hearted devotees, Jnana Shunya Bhaktas, they're thinking, well, Pundarik, that is the name of the Lord, like Kapyasam Pundarikaksham, about the beauty of the lotus eyes of Vishnu, how they're compared to the lotus flower, and sometimes that sunset element, different ways, the beauty of the lotus eyes of Vishnu, described, the pinkish, reddish, pinkish tint of the lotus flower. And they're thinking it must be some very exalted devotee that we don't know about. So they ask Mahaprabhu, who is this Pundarik that we hear you crying for? And Mahaprabhu says this. He says, just that you asked to hear about him, good fortune has entered your life. And that's partially what I mean about the calendar. Sometimes we know, sometimes we don't know. Or sometimes we think we know, and we don't know. But just to inquire, like someone saying, well, who is Pundarik Vidyanidhi? Mahaprabhu was saying, if you can ask that question, good fortune has entered your life. Right? Sometimes those newly recruited will think, oh, there's so many names of different devotees, it's hard to keep track, whatever. But in time, we hear about them and their glories. And by their grace, by hearing their glories, some grace comes to the heart of the faithful hearer. Right? At another time, they may recall, oh yes, we heard about such a great personality. So Mahaprabhu is saying, in fact, he's so great, just by asking about him, you get benefit. But I can't be happy without his association. Being deprived of his association is giving so much pain to my heart. And then, other than in a generic sense, great devotee separation from Krishna, but what is the specifics at hand here is that Srimati Radharani's father is Brishabhanu Maharaj, and he's descended in Gaur Leela as Pundarik Vidyanidhi. And we hear in Charitamritam, Radha Bhava Duti Subalita. Mahaprabhu is enveloped in the heart and halo of Srimati Radharani. So when he's saying, Pundarik Bap, Pundarik, Father, Pundarik, that's Radharani's expression of heart, and he's now enveloped engulfed in her heart's sentiments, Radha Bhav. So he's crying out like that, and so eager to see Pundarik Vidyanidhi. Many devotees, say most, at that time, as Leela would have it, were not familiar with his glories, but it's from a city called Chattragam. I think it's called something like Chittagong in modern Bangladesh. But from that town was Mukunda Dutt and Vasudev Dutt. They know the greatness of Pundarik Vidyanidhi. So he appears in a place where the Ganga doesn't flow. So those who are able to, they maintain, what do you call it, pied-à-terre, secondary residence in Navadvip. And they will go to Navadvip and have darshan of the Ganga. And Mahaprabhu is telling his devotees how much love Pundarik Vidyanidhi has for the Ganga. Remember, liquid Krishna Prem in the form of the divine river. That he can't tolerate that people will put their feet in it or wash their clothes or do any kind of, personal things. So he will only go at night. And at night he comes on the banks of the Ganga, gives his dandavats, and takes a few drops of the water and very respectfully, lovingly sprinkles the Ganga on his head. Right? That's Pundarik Vidyanidhi, Vrishabhanu Maharaj of Krishna Leela. So we see, observe, once again, Krishna consciousness being measured in the inverse. When we see the greatest magnitude of feeling or appreciation towards the least aspect or least connection, that reveals the highest level of Krishna conscious sentiment. So the time has come for Pundarik Vidyanidhi to visit Navadvip. Mukunda hears about this, and his best friend is Gadadhar Pandit. And he's thinking, always for the welfare of his friend, and he says, Gadadhar, a great Vaishnava is coming to Navadvip. Would you like to meet that great Vaishnava, have their darshan? And Gadadhar, who we know, was Srimati Radharani in Gaur Leela, but even within Gaur Leela, as a child, not interested in playing, like they said, like serious as a child about devotion and devotional activities, not thought of so much as a child, but as just somewhat very deep in devotion, the deepest. So Mukunda, knowing what Gadadhar is like, offers to take him, and Gadadhar is very excited. And when they go to see Pundarik Vidyanidhi, so Pundarik Vidyanidhi is on a silk palanquin, like throne, and there's silk cushions everywhere, canopies, and spittoons all over, and he's chewing pan, which makes your lips and teeth turn red, and you chew it for some time and then spit in the spittoon. And they're told when he spits in the spittoon, he can see his reflection of his lips and is thinking how beautiful he looks. And has a pipe, and so there's smoke clouds and chewing pan and hair very nicely oiled, body perfumed, and two men with peacock feather fans fanning him. And Mukunda Dutt is saying, there's the Vaishnava. And Gadadhar Pandit is like, and we have to think, and there's so much in this pastime, right? So we can never even think remotely anything untoward toward Gadadhar, but trying to teach us something about the substance of Krishna consciousness. But for the sake of this pastime, why is Gadadhar shocked and apprehensive is because there's a stereotype of what we think a Vaishnava should be. Or guru, or divine personality, that they'll look a particular way, dress a particular way, all that. And here is a total contradiction to all of that. Right? And as a sidebar, you see, neophytes or imitationists, they always go out of their way to present themselves as Vaishnavas, or Vaishnavas with some very deep understanding, realization, and we see the substantial devotees doing the opposite of that, concealing their position and allowing for others to misread them, think of them as being mundane. Man shunyata. Srila Rupa Goswami, in discussing Bhava Bhakti and Pundarik Vidyanidhi, is oceans beyond Bhava Bhakti, Prema Nidhi. But there says one of the qualifications is man shunyata, the total absence of ego or defense mechanism, that someone thinks ill of you or disrespects you or whatever, that doesn't bother them or affect them in any way. Their only concern is the Lord and his entourage, his associates, not the opinions of the people of this world. But so Gadadhar Pandit is so bewildered, thinking, what I see before me appears to be a total materialist, a sense enjoyer. Right? And Mukunda can see the stunned look on the face of Gadadhar. Sometimes I wonder, was he anticipating that? So he sees, oh, I see what you're thinking. And Mukunda is the great singer from the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and starts singing some poems. And this starts affecting, back to the word traders, the sound, the divine current. In the presence of that, Pundarik Vidyanidhi cannot conceal himself. It's rousing a deep level expression of Krishna Prem. This is the expertise of Mukunda. And particularly comes to a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam in the third canto, Aho Bakiyam Stanakalakutam Jigam Saya Payayad Apyasadvi Lebhe Gatim Datri Uchitam Tatonyam Kamba Dayalum Sharanam Brajema. We're talking about how merciful is Krishna the other day. Generally, there's some idea like towards some divine personality, you ask them to accept you, you pledge submissiveness, submission, sincerity, and then they accept you. That's not what is described in this verse. Here, when Pundarik Vidyanidhi hears this, what is being expressed? The mercy of Krishna, how merciful he is, that Putana, the Rakshasi, right, the sorceress you can say, sent by Kamsa to kill the baby Krishna. Right? She assumes the form of a buxom young girl who can nurse babies, looks so sweet that even Yashoda and Rohini, again, Yogamaya, but deceived by her sweet appearance, and we're about appearances. She appears to be another way. Right? And what is her intention? To murder Krishna by her poisoned breast that she's offering the baby to suckle. Krishna sucks the poison, the milk, the life air out of her. And she collapses and dies, and what is the result? She's elevated to the position of mother. So she approached him, not saying, please accept me, I'm your aspiring servitor. She's come to murder Krishna, and some connection with him. He's the absolute good. Any connection with the absolute good, the result is good. So she is elevated to the position of mother. So in consideration of that, he's saying, Kamba dayalum sharanam brajayama. Is there anyone more merciful than Krishna? They approach with murderous intentions, and he liberates them and elevates them to the position of mother. He's overwhelmed thinking about that. And different ecstatic symptoms, waves of ecstatic symptoms start playing upon his divine form, and he can't contain those feelings, and he's throwing the cushions and pulling his hair and keeps saying, Kamba doalum sharanam brajema. Is there anyone more merciful than Krishna? And throwing the hookah and tossing the spittoons and throwing everything everywhere becomes broken. And all these ecstatic symptoms are there upon his divine form. No one can console him. And he enters a divine trance for 6 hours, lying there in a death-like state. Not for 6 minutes or 60 minutes, for 6 hours lying there. And then, to the astonishment of everyone, but especially Gadadhar saying, oh no, what have I done? I thought I had mundane thoughts. I was projecting mundane personality upon the highest type of devotee. That's a great aparad. I thought of them in a mundane way. Who knows what sort of hell awaits me? Saying, but Mukunda, I know you're my good friend. Whatever you do, you brought me here to meet this great Vaishnava. That was your purpose. And it said that if you will take shelter of the Vaishnava, as guru, the guru takes no offenses from the disciple. So the way to overcome my offense is to approach Pundarik Vidini for mantra diksha. And gradually, after that 6 hours, Pundarik Vidiniti comes out of that trance, and Gadadhara Pandit approaches him for initiation. He selects the next, Dwadashi, an auspicious time. And Gadadhar returns to Mahaprabhu to seek his approval. And of course, Mahaprabhu approves. And when Pundarik Vidyanidhi in the dead of night comes to visit Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Mahaprabhu is saying, now my life is perfect. He's saying, because I'm seeing Premaniti, the personification of an ocean of Krishna Prem is before me. And we're told when he and Pundarik Vidyanidhi embrace, that it appears like that they've merged into one another. And again, they sustain this embrace for 3 hours, as if merged in one another. So Mahaprabhu always liked to call him Premaniti, because Vidyanidhi would mean like ocean of knowledge, but Premaniti, an ocean of Krishna Prem. And sometimes Mahaprabhu how do you say, testing the devotees in different ways. That we know Gadadhar Pandit never wants to be separated from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and is also very clever. So Gadadhar thinks, well, Sachi Mata told him to stay in Puri, so that's a given. So I will take Ketra Sannyas in Puri, which means if I'm ever asked to go somewhere, I will say, I can't, I've taken Ketra Sannyas for Jagannath Puri, I can't leave there. So I will always be there. That's the cleverness of the devotees. Krishna is also very clever, but it's a never-ending competition between Krishna and the devotees. So Mahaprabhu, when every year, maybe the first 2 years he goes to South India, but then he returns and they have the annual Jagannath Rath Yatra, and the devotees come, the 200 Mahabhagavatas from Navadvip, chaperoned by Shivananda Sen. And remember, initially he wanted to go to Vrindavan right after sannyas, and then he got the inspiration that Krishna is Jagannath, he is there, go there, but still resurfacing is this desire to go to Vrindavan. And he will mention it to the devotees, and the devotees will say, all right, just stay for Rath Yatra. And then after that, then Rath Yatra would come, and at the end of Rath Yatra, they'd say, well, now it's Chaturmasya, and it's raining, and the roads, so just stay till the end of that, then you can go for Kartik. Then Kartik would come, and they go, well, now it's very cold, so just stay, and they'd get in. They did this like for 2 or 3 years. And after perhaps 5 years, he's thinking, and they're also feeling kind of bad that they do this every year. He's thinking, this year, please, that you keep doing these tricks every single year, please, this year. And they realize they have to do that. So this particular time, it comes, and Mahaprabhu sending Nityananda and the devotees to Navadvip. And of course, when he's going to Vrindavan, everyone wants to go with him, including Gadadhar Pandit. And Mahaprabhu lets him go for some time, but perhaps around Kathak or something, he's saying, really, you have to go back to Puri. Remember, you took Ketra Sannyas, you're always supposed to stay in Jagannath Puri. And Gadadhar Pandit is saying, to hell with my Ketra Sannyas. And then, well, what about worshipping Gopinath? Someone else can do that. And Mahaprabhu is saying, what? Then blame will come to me that you gave up the Seva Puja of Gopinath, you broke your Ketra Sannyas. For me, then I'm going to be at fault. But we're told internally, Mahaprabhu is actually happy. But saying these things externally. Then Gadadhar says, all right, I'll just go on my own. Because Mahaprabhu is going through now. I will visit Sachi Mata, and I'm on my own. So there's no blame. Whatever is wrong, that comes to me, not to you. And they go for some time, and then Mahaprabhu is saying, all right, all right, now on your own. You broke your Kshetra sannyas, you abandoned the worship of Gopinath. But what is that? Nija Sukh. That's for your happiness. If you want to make me happy, I'm telling you to go back to Puri, worship Gopinath. And hearing this, Gadadhar Pandit just faints. Right? And after some time, when Mahaprabhu has to separate from Ramananda, faints. And Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says that it's so pathetic and heartbreaking, this separation. He said, it cannot be described. So he said, I'm not going to do that. It's impossible to describe the depth of the pain of the separation experienced at that time. By both, also Mahaprabhu and Ramananda embracing. They're talking Krishna Katha all night, and then the time for separation comes. So sometimes the Lord, He's saying peculiar things to the devotees. In the case of Raghunandan Thakur, the great child devotee, he says to his father, Mukunda, another Mukunda, he says, in your house, who's the father? You or Raghunandan? Remember, Raghunandan's a boy. But knowing the heart of Mahaprabhu, Mukunda says, Raghunandan is the father, and I'm the son. I'm in the junior position. And Mahaprabhu is very happy to hear that, because the gradation of higher, lower, senior, junior is in terms of devotion in the heart. And the sort of devotion that Raghunandan has is unparalleled. The example given when his father has to go on some business and entrust the worship of the deity to Raghunandan. They say, you'll feed the Lord today. And Raghunandan, as a child, he goes behind the curtain, brings the bhog, and then offers to the, my Lord Krishna, please take. And Krishna's not doing anything. He's a deity form. And Raghunandan imploring him, now you please take. He's so pure in his heart. He expects, he thinks Krishna has to now sit down and take prasadam, take the bhog. And he's saying, if you don't do this, my father will beat me. Why are you hesitating? And his heart's expression is so pure that he's melting the heart of Krishna. So Krishna comes out of his deity form, sits down and starts, taking. And then Raghunandan is very happy, close the curtain. Let me know when you're finished. Then later, Mukunda comes back late in the evening. He wants some prasadam. Asks Raghunandan to bring some of the prasad from the offering today. And he's saying, there is none. He said, what do you mean? He said, Krishna ate everything. And he's saying, we know as part of the devotion, we offer everything, and mystically, Angani yasya sakalendriya vrittimanti, all the Lord's senses are interchangeable. By hearing, He's eating everything, and then mystically, mercifully, then the prasadam appears, full prasadam. And Raghunandan said, not today. He ate everything. And they're thinking, oh, this mischievous child, what has he done? And they say, oh, okay, show me this new style of offering you have. And they make the bhog again, prepare, and nothing's happening. And the father's becoming suspicious, leaves, and Raghunandan begging the deity again, and he comes down and grabs like a laddu or something. Then the father comes back and the deity's like this. And he sees this laddu in his hand. Then he could understand, who is this child, who I have the opportunity to serve in the capacity of his father. And that when their group would go to the Rath Yatra, Raghunandan was also a very good dancer. So he would be dancing, one of the two principal dancers in their group. And of course, Srila Raghunath Das Goswami, the Prayojan Tattva Acharya of the Rupa Nuga line. If you look at Srila Gurudev's Arati, I wrote more than one, but in the Govardhan Arati that he composed there, he's praising Raghunath Das Goswami. As I recall, Mahaprabhu gave his Govardhan Shila to Raghunath Das Goswami. It says, worshipful deity. And Das Goswami in his prayer, Nija Nikata Nivasa Dehi Govardhanatvam, is the Prayojan Tattva Acharya of the Rupa Nuga line, indicating ultimately what our goal shall be. And he's saying, Govardhan, give me shelter, give me a place nearby. Right? And there in Govardhan, Gurudev liked to quote this section of Charitamritam, where it has this verse, Indra Aiswarja Sama, Stri Apsara Sama. That he, in his Purvashram, his former life, Grihastha life, when he was married, he had the wealth equal to Indra and his wife as beautiful as an Apsara, the heavenly goddess. And repeatedly, we know he is trying to escape and run to the lotus feet of Mahaprabhu. So now we get a picture somewhat of, we see he's in different places, Nimai Pandit and Mahaprabhu, Nityananda touring the holy places, waiting for him to inaugurate his real Nam Sankirtan pastimes, Pundarik Vidyanidhi coming from Chattogram, Raghunath Das Goswami, feeding the associates of Nityananda Prabhu and Panihati, getting the grace of Nityananda Prabhu and his devotees, and the guarantee that having pleased them, that soon Krishna will be merciful to him and he'll achieve the lotus feet of Mahaprabhu. And his mother, as mothers are, so attached to her son, and seeing this natural detachment in him from mundane life, fear, and seeing that he's always trying to leave, to escape. They find him, bring him back. She suggests shackling him so that he can move around and do business, but he'll be shackled so that he cannot leave. And the father says, Indra Aiswarja Sama Stri Apsara Sama. He has wealth equal to Indra, the Lord of heaven, and a wife who's like a heavenly goddess. If that isn't enough to bind him, then what good will these chains do? And he says, for one who's become a madman for the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In one sense, what a delightful family dilemma. Right? Their son is mad for the lotus feet of Mahaprabhu. But they're very attached to him, and he's Raghunath Das Goswami. But we know that he does escape and runs for 9-12 days to Puri to join Mahaprabhu, and is put under the care of Swarup Damodar. And so there's Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, Raghunath Vaidya, a doctor, and then Raghunath Das, who became known as Swarup's Raghu. He's under the care of Swarup Damodar. After some time, he asked Mahaprabhu for personal instructions. Well, through Swarup Damodar, he wants to, Mahaprabhu, yes. And that famous, Balu na kaibe, balu na paribe, don't dress luxuriously, don't eat opulently, and always, Radha Krishna Manasa Seva. In your Siddha Deha culture, Radha Krishna Manasa Seva. And Gramya Katha, don't talk on mundane subject matters. Sound is important. He said, but one thing I should tell you is the reason I put you under Swarup Damodar's care is what I don't know, he knows fully. That's why. Let me think, what can that mean? What is unknown to Mahaprabhu? The Radha Mahima Prema Rasasima. How wonderful, glorious the love of Srimati Radharani. Param Kasyapi Prani Janamrinasya Kutuki. It's awakened in Krishna the curiosity to experience her position. And we know when she's in the throes of divine love, particularly separation, of which the 10th stage is death, a death-like state, and preceding that, her divine form being inundated with waves of ecstatic symptoms, playing the body like a doll, as we see later in the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And sometimes Radharani is so lost in self-oblivion, wholly absorbed in Krishna, she cannot remember what happened. So I'm saying that the heart of Srimati Radharani is terra incognito, a previously unknown world to Krishna. But it is known to Swarup Damodar, who's none other than Lalita Saki, the assistant of Srimati Radharani, who knows everything and is always perfectly assisting her when she's in a particular mood, singing a song or supplying a sloka that will amplify that mood or continue the sentiment or assuage the heart from the anguish of separation. Always the perfect servitor, maintaining her composure to do this service, who's always assisting Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Swarup Damodar. And Swarup Damodar's notes form the basis of Sri Chaitanya Charitamritam. And we're told his notes are sutra-like, they're condensed, and Raghunath Das Goswami, he's Mahaprabhu's secretary, Raghunath Das is his secretary. His notes are more extensive. And when he, after the disappearance of Swarup Damodar and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Raghunath Das Goswami is devastated and can see no reason to live anymore. As expressed in the verse from the Vilasa Kusumanjali, Ashavare Amrita Sindhu Mayi Katanchit Kalo Mayati Gamita Kila Sampratamhi Tvam Chet Kripa Mayi Vidasha Shinaiva Kimme Prane Brajena Chabororu Bakarinapi. We're saying, my life itself is an aspiration to serve your holy lotus feet. This is why Prayojan Tattva of Rupa Nugalai is saying, Radha Dasyam, that is the object of my life, is to get the service of the holy lotus feet of Krishna's beloved Srimati Radharani. And by extension here, Mahaprabhu and Swarup Damodar. He's saying, if that is no longer possible, then of what value is my life? And what is more valuable than my life? Vrindavan is of no use to me. And more valuable than that, Krishna himself. Right? Saying, then Krishna, when Krishna is not at your side, Bororu Bakari Napi, Bakari, then he's like the killer of Putana and Aghasura and different, not that sweet, irresistibly charming, young Shama Sundaram Achintya Guna Swarupam. Right? That Krishna is only fully manifest at your side. So my aspiration is the service of your holy lotus feet. If that is withdrawn, what reason is there for me to live anymore? So he went to Vrindavan, thinking to have the darshan of Radha Kunda and Govardhan. We've heard on his hands and knees, crawling on his hands and knees, and Radha Kunda, saying, Muke Radha Radha Bole, Veshe Nayanera Jale Radhe Radhe. That holy name of Radharani came from the lips of Raghunath Das Goswami, with tears pouring down his eyes, drenching his clothes, aspiring for the service of her holy lotus feet. And then thinking, I will go to Govardhan and throw myself and finish this life. And then he finds Rup and Sanatan there and thinks, oh, Mahaprabhu and Swarup Damodar are here in Rup and Sanatan, I have some reason to live. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami comes as his attendant servitor, and the full wealth of the pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu recorded in the notes of Swarup Damodar and the notes of Raghunath Das Goswami, they're transferred to Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, and by his divine grace available to us today as Sri Chaitanya Charitamritam. And Srila Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur, the great Acharya and interpreter of the Bhagavatam, even in something that appears to be relatively insignificant, Chakrabarti Thakur squeezing so much nectarine juice from that, and the revelations, particularly the Sarartha Darshini Tika, the commentary in the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, at which at one point, and we know also every day we're saying the Gurvastakam, the prayers and glorification of the Guru, everything given there, very concentrated way. That's Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur. And in this Bhagavatam commentary, at one point, he's just presenting one beautiful interpretation after another, and then he apologizes to the readers. He's saying, I must apologize to you for taking the occupation of a jeweler. And you're thinking, what? What does he mean? That these explanations he gives, they're like Chintamani gems, that type of jewel. He's saying, forgive me for becoming a jeweler, because it's one jewel after another, after another, after another, that he's extracting. He's mining Siddhantic gems from Srimad Bhagavatam. And those devotees, great disciples of Srila Saraswati Thakur, that Bharati Maharaj, that he could, in a common sense way, preach very extensively Krishna consciousness. And the last thing I will say is this, Parbat Maharaj he lived in Swarupganj near Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Like, he's the next door neighbor of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And Swarupganj means Surabhi Kunj, you know, Swananda Sukhada Kunj in the higher sense, and what is the other name? Godruma Dweep. And so he would tell the devotees in Gaudiya Math his experiences. So remember, he lives next door to Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He would hear at like 3 a.m. Bhaktivinoda Thakur up all night writing his divine books, songs, taking Krishna Nam. And he would hear Bhaktivinoda Thakur taking Krishna Nam. You can see there's like a cement bench on the front porch of his house. He said it was like he was crying out and wailing to his long-lost beloved in the distance. He said it was like a heart-breaking sound. He'd never heard anyone chant the name of Krishna that way. That he would hear. So he would hear Bhaktivinoda Thakur taking Krishna Nam at 3 o'clock in the morning. So how exalted these divine souls are, and how fortunate we are to get some opportunity to say something in their glorification. Hare Krishna. Hari Haraya Namo Krishna Yadavaya Namo. Hari Haraya Namo Krishna Yadavaya Namo. Yadavaya Madhavaya Kesavaya Namo. Gopal Govinda Ram Sri Madhusudan. Giridhari Gopinath Madana Mohan. Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Sri Advaita Chandra. Gadadhara Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jai Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath. Sri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunath. Jai Gosai Kori Charana Bandhan. Jaha Hoite Vignanas Avista Puran. Jai Gosai Dharmui Tarodas. Kansavara Padarinu Mora Pansagras. Kandera Charana Sevi Bhakta Sanevas. Janame More Abhilas. Jai Gosai Jabe Bhaje Koilovas. Radha Krishna Nitya Lila Korilo Prakash. Anande Boro Hari Bhaja Vrindavan. Sri Guru Vaishnava Pade Majai Aman. Sri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Koriyas. Harinam Sankirtan Kohe Narotamadan. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gaur Haribo, 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 Gaur Haribo. Nitai Gaur Haribo, 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 Gaur Haribo. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajaka Satir Sadishri Srimad Shri Bhakti Sudhir Goswami Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Shri Bhakti Rakak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Bhagavan Shri Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Saparikar Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Gandharva Govinda Sundar Jiu Ki Jai. Shri Giriraj Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Rupanuga Guru Varga Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Shri Vishnu Priya Devi Ki Jai. Shri Pundarik Vidyanidhi Prabhu Ki Jai. Shri Raghunandan Thakur Ki Jai. Shri Raghunath Das Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai. Shri Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur Ki Jai. Shri Parvat Maharaj Ki Jai. Bharati Maharaj Ki Jai. Shri Divya Saraswati Ki Jai. Vasanta Pancami Ki Jai. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gop Govinda Shyama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Navadip Dham Ki Jai. Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat Ki Jai. Sri Gupta Govardhan Ki Jai. Ganga Devi Jamuna Devi Bhakti Devi Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Om Vishnupad Vishvavarenya Sri Lesi Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Madhacharya Vrinda Ki Jai. Jai Srila Bhakti Bhimalavadut Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Srila Bhakti Ranjan Madhusudan Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Sri Bhakti Lalita Devi Dasi Ki Jai. Seva Vrinda Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Nitai Go Premanande. Hare Krishna. Yes.
Dandavats from Samantha Fairclough, East London. Arjun Prabhu, Malika Didi, Dhanjay Prabhu Russia, Vijay Krishna Prabhu London, Suchitra Didi, Chris Jonathan Bulawan Gore, Bhakta from Philippines, and Bhakta Bantudas, Dandavat Maharaj, and to all devotees, all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Madhavi Didi, Atula Krishna Prabhu, Hungary,
Hare Krishna.
Adityanandana Prabhu, Madhavendra Prabhu, Kalyani Didi, USA, Nadia Barandich, Ukraine, Lila Sundari Didi, Australia,
Hare Krishna.
Praneshwar Didi from Florida. Thanks for the teachings and heartfelt obeisances to you and the assembled devotees. Sevarupa Didi, Mexico, Soumya Shyam Prabhu, Russia, Rosheni Singha Ben, I don't know, Ashapurna Didi, Salt Lake City, Madhumangal Prabhu, Dandavats from Shri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat, London. Barnavi Yoga, please accept my humble Dandavats and pranams. Feel supported by your shining presence. Hari Diaz and Ophir Yavats, I'm grateful to you, Goswami ji, and all for sharing this knowledge and some mellows of the Lord's intimate servants. I pray for ours and their servants' mercy on me, my loved ones, and all of them deemed worthy. Sorry, that's all.
All right. Hare Krishna. And our assembled devotees here. Hare Krishna, I see, right in front of me, Chandra Kanti and Indumukhi. Dhanyavad. Hare Krishna. They're giving light to Shenzhen. And that whole, yeah, 2 moons. Because you're both Chandrakanti and Indumukhi. So a lot of moonlight there. Hare Krishna. Rupa Vilas Prabhu in the Philippines, Dandavat. Lalita Priya Didi, Dandavat. Malini Didi and Urs, Dandavat. Chaitanya Nitai Prabhu, Dandavat. Supriya Didi, Dandavat. She's in China also. Hare Krishna.
Oh, it's yellow.
Yes, and wearing yellow. Good, for Saraswati. Tapananandini Didi, Dandavat. She's in Mexico. Nityananda Prabhu, Das Prabhu, he's here. Seva Rupa Devi, Dandavat. And there's Sripad Hrishikesh Maharaj and the Abhazya Bhakta Vrinda. Dandavat. Sri Hari Das Prabhu in Brazil. What does it say? Tarulata Didi. Where?
Belarus.
Oh, Belarus. All right, Danda. Yeah, wow. And there's Chandrakanti and Indumukhi again. Pritu Prabhu, the Rock of Petersburg, Petra. Leela Sundar Prabhu, Dandavat. Leela Sundar Prabhu, Brahmachari and Govindaland. Pandita Devi, Dandavat. Ananta Shesh Prabhu in Spain, Dandavat. Gaurachandra Prabhu, Dandavat. Shamala, Dandavat. Sandeep Krishna Prabhu and Maheshwari Didi, Dandavat. Soumya Sham Prabhu, Urs, Dandavat. Seva Rupa Devi, Dandavat. Anjali Didi, Dandavat. Hare Krishna. Kalindi Didi, Dandavat. Ajita Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat. Thank you for the latest, for part 2, your latest edit. Jai Madhavilata, Dandavat. Arjun Prabhu, Dandavat. I believe that's everyone. Pardon me? Who? Kamalini Didi, Dandavat. Priyanana's here. Oh, Gokulatarani Didi, Dandavat. Hare Krishna. And Vanchakalpatribhyascha kripa sindhu bevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. My dandavats to one and all. Hare Krishna. And Swarnangi.
Yes, Swarnangi.